There is a level of self-mastery that makes people look at you with quiet awe. It has nothing to do with natural talent, and it is not a result of luck. The reason is simple. You continue to execute when 99% of others have quit after just 3 days. You recognize this person, don't you? The one who shows up every single day at the same hour, following the same ritual, with no self-pity, no excuses, and no complaint. While the crowd drops out by the end of the first week, they just keep moving, as if nothing in this world could possibly halt their progress. You look at them and ask yourself, what kind of machine is this? Today, we will discover the answer, because there is an ancient method used for centuries by mountain ascetics in Asia, capable of forging such an intense type of discipline that it is truly frightening. They called it Muzoku-Keizoku, continuous development without gaps. Once you grasp its core, you will never break a single habit again. But here is my rigid warning. This system is not for everyone. To achieve this level of control, you must utterly extinguish a part of yourself. The compromising part, the weak part, the part that only ever tries. That specific piece must die. Before we proceed, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments what single quality or habit you are most determined to integrate into your life. This not only helps the channel, but it validates your sincere commitment to profound change. Let's begin. Our story opens with Dmitri, a bright marketer with a stable career and a burning desire to change his lifestyle. Yet he suffered from one fatal defect. He could never sustain his self-control. He devoured dozens of books on willpower and downloaded every possible habit tracker, but nothing ever lasted. Day 1, full of initial fervor. Day 3, he began internal negotiations. Day 5, just today I'll make an exception. Day 10, total surrender. What Dmitri failed to grasp was this. He was not fighting against idleness. He was battling the architecture of his own mind. The Stoic Epictetus once said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." But Dmitri kept altering his course, constantly searching for a new magic method that would finally solve his life. His downfall wasn't failure. It was the never-ending loop of having to begin all over again. Until he stumbled upon the ancient practice taught in the Kajizan temple, which states that an action must be seen as irreversible. If you view an act as reversible, you will always permit a room for bargaining. I'm exhausted today. Do it tomorrow. But once you decide that an action is utterly uncancelable, the decision process vanishes. You simply execute. Dmitri became consumed by this concept. He couldn't stop wondering, how have these monks sustained this for centuries without fail? It wasn't sheer willpower. It was a fundamental shift in identity. The question, should I do this, ceases to exist. Listen carefully, because in the following section, I will reveal the core principles that made this total control possible. Dmitri realized his first critical error. He had always made his promises in silence. Silent vows carry no true weight, no witnesses, no accountability, no pain of shame when they are broken. So this time, he did the opposite. He put it in writing. I am the kind of person who will complete a 20-minute workout every morning at 6 a.m. for 90 consecutive days. He signed it and posted it for the world to see. People mocked him. His co-workers joked about how soon he'd quit. But that very mockery saved him. Researchers at the University of Duke have demonstrated that the human brain responds to public loss of face with the same primal panic as it reacts to a threat to survival. We would rather endure pain than forfeit our honor. And that is when Dimitri's discipline mutated into something deeply primal. Seneca the Stoic wrote, "When you ask the gods for a long life, you are asking for discipline." It was not a plea to the heavens. It was an oath made not to emotion, but to pure logic itself. By declaring his vow to the world, he put reason on the throne and shackled emotion to the seat below. From that day, quitting became more agonizing than continuing. Do you know what the ultimate enemy of consistent action is? It is not weakness. It is the internal dialogue. Your mind whispers, "Do it after breakfast. Perhaps this afternoon. Tomorrow will be better." And every time you listen, you teach your brain one terrible lesson: that hesitation is permitted. Dimitri grasped this, so he selected 6 a.m. Not because it is the optimal time, but because it is the hour where no alibis exist. No messages, no urgent emails, no distractions. Only him and his commitment. The first week, his body fought back. He was exhausted and irritable. But by the second week, the change began. He started waking up before the alarm. His body had understood. His mind had fully surrendered. No more disputes, just movement. Marcus Aurelius taught, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." The unchanging hour is not about maximizing your time. It is about eradicating the endless talk between you and your weaker self. Because once you remove the question of when, the only possibility left is action. The human mind is cunning. When it can no longer debate when to act, it begins to negotiate what to do. Dimitri still rose at 6 a.m., but sometimes he substituted his workout with writing, other days with reading. And just like that, the mind won again, because variety feels productive, but in truth, it is the unguarded door through which weakness always creeps back in. So Dimitri returned to Dogen, the Zen master who defined Muzoku-Keizoku. Dogen taught, "When the mind still seeks change, it has not yet yielded." The monks call it form, the sacred structure. They perform the same act, at the same time, in the exact same manner. No improvisation, no novelty, because diversity is often the death of consistency. So Dimitri made his covenant. 3 actions every day, 10 push-ups, 10 minutes of reading a philosophical text, 10 minutes of breathing practice. Same time, same order. By the 3rd week, the mental voice rebelled. "This is boring. You're not a robot. You need variety." But Dimitri remained silent. He knew that boredom is the very gateway to lasting change. By week 6, something extraordinary occurred. He no longer had to think about the routine. He simply executed it. His body took over upon waking. Discipline was no longer an effort. It had become an instinct. Researchers at Caltech confirm that by repeating a behavior in a fixed context, control shifts from the prefrontal cortex, willpower, to the cerebellum. At that point, you cease to make a choice. You just act. Dimitri's routine was now nearly automatic. His body moved before his mind had even spoken. Until one morning, he was traveling for business. On another, he fell ill. This is the exact moment when most people fail. "I will restart when I am better. Next week, I'll resume the practice." That tiny opening, that single gap in the chain, is precisely where your old self sneaks back in. The philosopher Seneca wrote, "Our existence is a river. The slightest stop in it is the beginning of decay." Discipline is not about achieving perfection. It is about absolute continuity. On day 40, he did his push-ups in a tiny airport restroom. He mediated standing in traffic. He read a single paragraph while waiting for the elevator. It was imperfect, but it was consistent. When you skip a day, you are not resting. You are teaching your instincts that surrender is an option, But when you push through the chaos, you are teaching your mind that action is destiny. When a crisis strikes, you have no time to think. And that is the moment when true discipline is put to the test. The Stoics had a technique for this. Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of misfortune. The wise do not wait for the storm to gather. They prepare while the sky is still clear. Dmitri wrote down every single scenario that could potentially break his streak. Sick? A lighter, modified workout. No space? Train in the bathroom. Working late? Read while waiting for the taxi. No internal debate, no overthinking, only immediate execution. Because every question already had a defined answer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Prepare your mind for every eventuality, and when it arrives, welcome it as one already foreseen." When you have already decided how to respond, chaos loses all its power. You no longer need willpower. You only need to follow the program you've written. A study from Stanford University confirms that when an action is pre-decided, the prefrontal cortex, the part that manages willpower, does not burn out. The behavior becomes an automatic reflex. You stop existing in anxiety and start existing in certainty. Day 90. Dmitri had completed 3 full months without missing a single action. But the truly terrifying thing was not the 90-day streak itself. It was the realization that he could no longer live any other way. You know you have transformed when the things you once had to force yourself to do become as inherent as breathing. You no longer do the meditation. You are a meditator. You no longer read every morning. You are a reader. You no longer train discipline. You are discipline. Seneca wrote, "He who is called mad by the crowd is often the only one who is truly awake." True discipline will always make others uncomfortable because it illuminates their own lack of self-control. But Dmitri knew he wasn't doing this to impress anyone. He did it for one single reason: to become free. Not the freedom that comes from power, but the freedom that comes from mastery, the mastery of oneself. At this level, you no longer need motivation hacks. You only need one thing: to kill the old, weak self. Discipline doesn't kill joy, it kills chaos. It burns away the excuses, destroys the negotiation, and silences the endless inner noise. Until what remains is a human being of frightening calm, clear, steady, and unbreakable. When you achieve this, people will whisper, "You've changed. You are not normal anymore." Smile, because that is the moment you have stepped beyond their world. Discipline is not forcing yourself to act daily. It is reaching a state where you simply cannot live otherwise. Now ask yourself, are you ready to eliminate the weaker version of you? The one that says, "I'll start tomorrow, just this once." Everyone does it. Because if you don't kill it, it will slowly destroy you through 1,000 small acts of hesitation. Discipline is not a chain. It is the blade that cuts you free from mediocrity. Remember the 5 pillars of Muzoku-Keizoku. 1. Public pledge. 2. Unchanging hour. 3. Unified action. 4. Unbroken flow. 5. Premeditation of misfortune. If this message resonated with you, do not just watch and move on. Take one definitive step toward your disciplined self. Like this video if it inspired you. Subscribe so you never lose sight of who you are becoming. And in the comments, write just 3 words. I begin now, because the journey does not start when you feel ready. It begins when you decide.